I'm Adrienne Johnson.
And we are
Reclaiming
Sisterhood. All right. So we want to talk a little bit about our why before we introduce Dominica. So I've been talking about this for about 10 years. How do we get women to come together and build trust, build community so that we can make change? And I think about, we always talk about how, yeah, we collaborate, yeah, we work together, but there are many times where people are actually stabbing each other in the back and throwing each other under the bus and saying things that they shouldn't say or doing things they shouldn't do. And this is the impetus for this podcast, because what that has done is it has broken us into pieces. And when we show up for meetings, when we show up for church, when we show up for our families, we're in pieces. We're coming in pieces. Think about when you're at work and they're like, oh, I really like this, but don't do that no more, right? And so what that is saying is that I only want to see a piece of you. And so we as women are magicians, and we piece ourselves together depending on the room that we're in. The reason why we're here and we're launching this podcast today is because this is an opportunity for us to start stitching ourselves back together and reclaiming what sisterhood truly should be. I'm going to turn it over to my host.
So for me, when Kim and I were talking about it, for me it gave me an opportunity to really come together, provide a space for women, a safe space for women, where we can celebrate one another. It's a safe place for you to land. So if you want to cry, nobody's saying, well, what you crying for? Right? It's a place where we can say, well, you know what, you're a real big deal today, girl. You know, so we don't have that. We don't have those spaces. And so when Kim and I were talking about it, those are the things that kind of bubbled up for me. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to be a part of that.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have to recognize, as Dominica said earlier, the current political landscape. We're all exhausted. We're all exhausted, all of us. And what we have to figure out is, how do we go from this exhaustion to this invisibility of Black women to moving together somewhere? How do we do that? And we saw that in this last election where Kamala Harris was a real big deal, and now she's fighting with the Biden campaign, right? And she's being silenced, and Black women leadership is being silenced. Think about all the Black women that you know who have been moving about in companies, and the DEI positions are going away, or the positions that they hold are going away. And so we've got to think through, in this current time, how do we stabilize? How do we support each other to stabilize? So that's why we're here trying to figure out how we use this podcast to bring us together, create a community that's going to transform systems through liberated leadership. Hence, Dr. Dominica McBride, CEO and founder of Become, a Center for Community Engagement and Social Change, and the author of Becoming a Changemaker. She is demonstrating for us liberated leadership. She is giving us a blueprint for liberated leadership. And so we want to welcome Dominica here today, and I'm going to turn it over to my co-host to begin to.
So when I think about leadership, I often think about healing and how we don't always do that. So I want to ask you a question. What does it mean to treat healing as leadership?
Yeah, so first of all, just thinking about the importance of healing, because we don't usually associate or hear in the general milieu healing and leadership in the same sentence. And we need to, because we can see and feel the impact of people that are not on a healing journey, and what kind of pain it's causing in our country, around the world, and even on a smaller scale, like in organizations, institutions. I'm sure many of us have had an experience of somebody who just, like, their trauma has impacted us directly, right? Through them. And the thing is like, that's just like the human experience, right? Like it's normal and oftentimes like natural when we're hurt and we're not dealing with that to inadvertently hurt other people or even intentionally, but like a lot of times it's we don't even mean it. We don't even mean to hurt people, but it happens. And so as leaders, we really need to be on a healing journey. Healing needs to be a part of the leadership development journey for everybody who wants to be in leaders, who wants to make a change, who wants to influence their environment, wants to help other people. Like healing must be a necessary part of it. And so part of that for me has been, I'll just give a quick small example. One of my issues has been around my own daddy issues. So I didn't meet my father until I was 16, and my narrative, or the narrative that I received from my mom, was he abandoned us, he didn't love us. So I grew up not wanting to be abandoned. So I would often do things to not be abandoned. Let me please to not be abandoned. Let me not do anything to hurt you, to not be abandoned. And that, it affected my leadership because I wasn't saying things that needed to be said to my team, giving hard feedback that needed to be given to my team. And so I had to go on this healing journey in that one little piece. I mean, we're not talking about all the other pieces that I gotta work out here, but even that one little piece, like in doing that and focusing in on healing in that way, I was better able to say my truth, better able to say hard things in compassionate ways, right? Then bring even more of myself to the team and to the work, and welcome more of other people in it too.
Yeah, so it's making me think about healed people don't just show up as leaders, they lead differently. They lead differently, right? Think about all of us in here, who's on their healing journey? Everybody, right? Think about where you were a year ago in your healing journey to where you are today. And do you interact with people differently? That's the story that Dominica just shared, right? Healing makes a difference in how we show up.
Yeah, so when you said that, I had never thought about healing and leadership until I left the position, and one of my mentees actually said, well, are you going to take time off to heal? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, why would I do that? What am I healing for? I think that's what I said. What am I healing for? Quick, just like that, right? And she was like, well, did you plan on leaving the job? I was like, no. And she was like, well, you need to heal. I was like, wow, I do, right? And so to Kim's point, you do show up differently when you're on that journey, because there were things that, I was tight at that job, right? I was short with people. I had to apologize. So I was like, hey, you know what? I never meant to be that short with you. I know, my bad. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And I never thought about that until that time. So that's why this question was so important to ask.
Yeah, I got another question related to kind of healing and leadership, because I'm playing around with healing as being like an act of resistance. And because the first thing we say when somebody says self-care, and I'm a product of that, when my friends would say, oh, I'm going to go do blah, blah, blah for self-care, I would say, WTF, self-care. What is that? I don't know what that is. I'm on go all the time, right? But when we talk about this, it has to be something that gets us to stop in our tracks and do an about face. So do you want to talk a little bit about like maybe anything related to that? Like how do we get ourselves to check ourselves?
Yeah. When you talk about healing as resistance, it made me think about rest as resistance.
Exactly.
If you haven't read that book, get that book. So good. Rest as resistance, and that was one of my stopping points too. Was reading that book because I, like so many of us, are constantly go, do. How much can we do? How much can we do? Help. And that book says, no, you need to rest. And rest is doing something too. And it's vital, it's necessary. And that also can help us heal, like just resting. whether it's closing your eyes, whether it's taking a nap, resting. But there's so many aspects to like healing. A lot of the time, like healing path is your own journey, right? It's gonna look different for each and every one of us. Whether it's going deep into our emotions, whether it's like hidden emotions stuck in our bodies, emotions stuck in our minds, going into the pain, or it's journaling, or it's laughter, or it's connection, it's being vulnerageous. One of our team members kind of put the two words together, vulnerable and courageous, and vulnerageous, right? And so it's being like vulnerageous with yourself, vulnerageous with others, and stepping into that. But for me, it's looked at all of those things. It's looked like therapy, it's looked like self-reflection, it's looked like reading and meditation and crying and crying and crying and crying.
And crying.
And crying.
I'm going to shift us to talk a little bit about power and relationships and how can we reimagine those, right, in the current structure of how we live, right? There's a hierarchy. Somebody's got to be in charge, and then somebody's reporting to them, and possibly so on and so on. And when we start trying to speak outside of that and color outside of those lines, people get all buzzed up and like, I can't, who am I supposed to talk to? You mean you got 4 different leaders? Who am I supposed to go to when I need something? Any one of us, right? So getting people to think through this shift in how we see leaders, I think is a really interesting piece, in addition to all of the pieces we bring in leadership like intersectionality. So the question I'm going to ask you is, how do you define power now? And how were you taught to define it?
Yeah, power is such an onion.
Totally.
Such an onion. So I was taught, a lot of people were taught, like some people have power, some people don't have power. And that's one of the big lies that we have been taught, is that some people don't have power, some people don't. And in the media, in our conversations, even in our advocacy and organizing, right? We need to talk to those in power. We need to tell truth to power. Like, power is outside of us. And power, like those people are in power and we're not in power, right? And that's just like such a lie and keeps us in the status quo. And so I had to unlearn that. Because I did ingest that too, right? And so I had to unlearn that and just recognize that power is like electricity, right? Electricity is in every single one of us. It's moving. It's how we're able to live right now. It's our heartbeat, right? Like, that's power. And the power is just the ability to influence, ability to work, ability to do, and that we all have power and we can wield it in different ways. But we really need to tap into the fact that every single one of us has power, and collectively we have way more power than any small group that might be quote unquote in charge.
So how do you harness that collective power, right? How do we get people to understand that power is not an individual thing, but it is a collective thing? And we talk about maybe power as being shared and flourishing, like we're doing something together, and it's not like domination, one thing over another. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one simple thing just in leadership is like shifting from just telling people to versus like facilitating a dialogue, facilitating a conversation, so that we are together co-creating. Like, we're together deciding on something, we're together moving, right? So when just the simple fact or simple process of people using their voice in this space to contribute to something, and they see that and they feel that and they acknowledge that's starting that collective power process.
Well, how does identity and intersectionality bridge into this power dynamic?
Yeah, so that's a big one. That's a big one, because like that whole thing around certain identities are not as powerful as others, right? That's all like what we've been taught, and we really need to flip that, because there's power in our identities, right? Like, we're going to do an exercise tomorrow around that, but there's like power and wisdom and value in every single cultural identity that we have that influences us, that we move through, and to see our cultural elements as sources of power, right? Like to shift that and to bring it to life. So for example, small example, my background, my mom and my mom's family is from Haiti. And my grandfather was the head of the military in Haiti under the president before Duvalier. And he led rescue missions, he like moved some huge things forward, and then even before that, just Haitian history, right? Like Haiti was the first country to be free, right? Like the people who were enslaved overpowered the French, and they became the first free Black country, you know, in this hemisphere. And so for us, just like knowing that history and knowing that blood is in my blood, you know, like brings me energy and, you know, ignites the power that's within me. And so thinking about like that cross-generational power that's passed on as well. It's in our veins, it's like in our bodies, whether we know it or not, but being willing to look at that and tap into that and bring it to life in the present.
That's good. That's really good. So, as a reflection, if you could plant one seed in the hearts of every woman listening, what would it be?
Yeah, so one seed is to tap into the well and power of your emotions. There's so much. I mean, every day we hear about all this horrific news, you know, what's happening in our communities, what's happening in our backyards, what's happening across the country, what's happening across the world, right? We're holding on to like not only the emotion of everybody else, but also like our own emotion, what we go through on a day-to-day basis, you know, whether it's like at work or with our families or, you know, just walking down the street. And so we're holding so much emotion, but that gets built up and we don't ever like, you know, really have regular spaces to just emote, to embody, to connect with every element of ourselves and to let that out and to discharge it and to release, right? And there's such power in that, in our emotions and in that process of connecting and releasing and accepting. So go on that journey, like at least that one step.
So this concludes the podcast. Thank you, Dominica. Thank you for everything, all the nuggets that you gave us. This podcast is just the beginning. It's not the conclusion. We ask that you follow us on all media platforms, social media platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Please follow us with Reclaiming Sisterhood, and know that everybody in this room can reclaim sisterhood, right? And it's so important because women are communal. You know, I think we kind of act in silos, but really we are communal. You are ready. You are already whole. You know, this kind of reminds me of you are smart. You are beautiful. You are kind. You already have everything that you need. Everything is already in you. I can go on forever because I love empowering women. It's one of my favorite things to do. So thank you all.
You want to do a final comment?
Check out their pants.
Yes.
When you get a chance, look at their pants for real.
Can you describe them?
Oh, they have revolutionaries all over their pants, basically. But reminders of what we need to step into and what we need to be in this time and to be brave and courageous in doing that, because we do not have to lay down or sit down or watch them destroy our communities. We do not have to sit back and, of course, everybody here is doing something, and collectively, we can transform what's happening. I truly believe that collectively we can transform what's happening and really shift this whole power dynamic in our reality.
And I'm just gonna end with talking a little bit about kind of this overarching question, right? There's an overarching question to all of this. Even though we gave some small tidbits, the overarching question is, what does it mean to lead from a place of healing, connection, and power that's truly our own? How do we want to show up in community? How do we want others to respond to us? And then how do we create the conditions if they're not there, like Shirley Chisholm bringing her own chair, right? How do we do those things to ensure that the voices of women are not left out, that are not on the side, or not an appendix to the book, that it is ingrained and embedded in the way that we do things? I've seen so much patriarchy over the last 4 years where it's come to a head after this last election, where women are being sidelined. And if we can't get ourselves together, they're not going to do it for us. And so we got to do it ourselves. So we've got to figure out, what do I got to do to heal? How do I connect in with other women? And then how do I support other women? And we've got to make that part of our daily mantra, our daily task, not just what we do at work, but we have to integrate that in how we live and how we operate with each other. Next time you want to give somebody the side eye, catch those eyes. Next time you want to suck your teeth, grab it, right? Like the next time you want to say something negative, think about how you can turn it around and say it as positive. Right? I think we've got to think about how are we showing up around other women? How are we building up other women? Are the words that are coming out of our mouth building somebody up, or are they tearing somebody down? And we've got to be the ones that are checking ourselves to do that. And one of the places we're going to be doing that is on this podcast. Some of you I have personal relationships with, so sometimes y'all know I can be a little bit off the chain. And that's going to come out in this podcast, because I'm going to try to center my perspective, because that's the one that I own, in this podcast. I'm surely going to be bringing in other perspectives to help tamp down some of my craziness. But at the end of the day, we got to show all of this diversity that we have inside of our opinions, our thoughts, and our experiences, so that we can begin to lock arms with each other and move forward. So I'm going to start with the beginning. We said, what's our why, right? We want to stop this backbiting. We want to support women. But at the end of the day, what are we going to do that? A podcast is great, but what is that leading us to? And I go back to, and I shared this with somebody earlier, Madam C.J. Walker did her women's conference in her mansion. The YWCA 100 years ago would have women's conferences, and women would come from all over the place to create their agenda. What's our agenda? And then let's stick to it. All right, thank you, Dominica.
Thank you.
Dr. McBride. And we thank everybody here that participated today. We're excited about this opportunity. We're excited that you're going to join us in Reclaiming Sisterhood. Welcome home. Okay? Thank you.